president tries to control the bureaucracy. He is, of course, ultimately in charge of it. He does this by appointing the right people to run it. Although, there's often a vast difference between the person the president appoints at the very top and then the person there in the field office in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or wherever, carrying out the policy. They can issue executive orders that carry the force of law and are used to implement these policies. So they do have some control on how these bureaucracies actually carry out their day-to-day business. They can, of course, alter the agency's budget when the president proposes the budget to the Congress. They can reorganize an agency. After the attacks on September 11, 2001, George Bush reorganized massively the intelligence and defense agencies to create a new department, the Department of Homeland Security. That's the most recent new secretary job and department in the government. Congress tries to control the bureaucracy. They try to influence the appointments of the heads of the agencies. They have to confirm the president's nominees. They of course decide the agency's budget ultimately. They hold oversight hearings to look into what the agency's been up to, and this could be looking over their budget or looking over their activities. They can, of course, pass legislation to give more detailed or just dramatically change what the agency is charged with doing. Iron triangles, as we talked about back in the chapter on special interests, play a huge role here because part of the iron triangle is that bureaucratic agency who's in charge of implementing the policy. And so lobbying plays a huge role in the agencies as well. I mentioned either in class or in the video, during the Bush administration, the Secretary of the Interior had a massive scandal where a company that wanted to drill for oil and natural gas on public land was giving prostitutes and meth and cocaine to regulators at the Department of the Interior so they could get them to sign off on giving them permission to drill for that stuff. Well, that was a horrible, gone wrong example of an iron triangle there. The iron triangles are difficult to get rid of. They're difficult to work around, but it's not entirely impossible. Here's an example of an iron triangle. You might pause and take a look at this, particularly if maybe they're not real clear in your head, but this is a great example of tobacco as an iron triangle and the policy regarding that. The size of the federal bureaucracy is an example of when people talk about big government, they're talking about the bureaucracy. Even though it is actually shrinking, a lot of that is hype and talking points for politicians to try to win election. But it is very big, there's no doubt about that. Some agencies are understaffed and underfunded, but bureaucracies can only carry out policies that Congress and the President direct them to do. And so a lot of times when people are blaming the bureaucracy, maybe the blame would make more sense being placed at the feet of Congress or the President. Bureaucrats shape policy as administrators, implementers, and regulators. Their primary responsibility is the implementation of the policy handed to them by Congress and the President. As I've mentioned now a few times, there's a lot of talk about Washington, the bureaucracy spiraling out of control, but in reality it's shrinking significantly, I might add.